Hey there, greetings everybody. This is Kai from the Techno Funk Boy. Well, we're going to dive back into Dragonlance a little bit because we did finally have our next our next session, and that got us through the end of Chapter 2 of Dragons of Despair. So, if you haven't listened to the other videos in this series, what we're doing is we are playing through the original Dragonlance modules, except converting them to 5e, and I'm using this as kind of a campaign journal, but also just a way to discuss some of the issues that I've run into converting it, some of the resources that I found to convert things and to make this game very, very playable in 5e. I'm not the first person to done this, and there's actually a ton of resources out there. But these are kind of the thoughts that I'm doing to kind of update the game, not just in the way, not just in like stats, but also the way that this module is played, in order to kind of make it a 5e game. So, there's a couple of things that we really needed to deal with. So last time we talked about leveling these characters up, because now this isn't a problem with the module. This is a problem with the way I'm running the module, because we do have some newer players in the group, and I did want them to have the experience of not only creating their own characters, but also building those characters from level 1, and not do what the actual module has, which is pre-written characters that are somewhere between the levels of 3 and 6. Most of them are like level 4 and 5. I didn't want to do that, but that also meant that I needed to I needed to make some changes so that the game doesn't just murder them right away. And so some of these are really easy, and we kind of went through some of them. So I can kind of catch us up on what's going on. But the two questions that we need to tackle today are thus. First of all, how do I make it so this game is not, this module at least, is not about Goldmoon? Because the original module is about Goldmoon. And I don't think there's really anything that could be worse than being a supporting character in an NPC's story. The second issue that we need to deal with is the Plaza of Death itself. So we'll get to both of those. The first problem, Goldmoon. Goldmoon is a playable character in the original, and if she's not chosen, she can be an NPC, but that's dumb. It's dumb. I mean, this whole module, and even if you read the book, the first half of book 1 is really how did Tanis and company help Goldmoon on her quest, and that's that's not even just like an escort quest, but it's an escort quest where you're not even the star. Like if Goldmoon's an NPC, then you're not even a star. So there's a couple of things that we could have done, that we can do here. First of all, is just get rid of her. We've gotten rid of all the other characters, from the other pre-written characters from the game in the book, except for Goldmoon and Riverwind. So those are really our questions here. We can do without the other ones fairly easily, just substitute in. But what do we do with Goldmoon? Goldmoon and Riverwind have a very particular story coming into this game on how they find the blue crystal staff and get kicked out by their tribe and all of this great stuff. And so what do we do with that? One option is to just substitute one of the PC stories with that story. But that puts the PC in a particular context, and it doesn't give them the opportunity to make their own background, which is something I wanted to do for my players, and the stories that the players have brought to the table, very, very few of them would have been usable in that sense. We possibly could have gotten away with finding the blue crystal staff in a different manner. But then that also like brings up the question of then why the drive to Zaxaroth. I mean, one in the book, one of the main purposes is because this is actually where Riverwind finds the staff, and he doesn't quite remember all of it, but as he's getting closer, he's remembering more and more and more. Um, and and also it just brings up so many questions on how the staff did get out and all this other stuff. And I did want to keep some scenes with the staff later, which I will talk about actually next time because we have not played that, and so I don't want to give that quite away yet. Um, and so you could do it that way. So either just substitute backgrounds or put the blue crystal staff into somebody else's background that it might fit in, and maybe even just leave all the questions unanswered. It's kind of play it like, well, how hey how did the ring eventually get to Schmiegel? Well, you can kind of trace it, but it's kind of actually secondary to the story itself. And so you can treat it as such, that this is the Ring of Power. It has bounced around and now is in a cave in the bottom of this mountain, or whatever the case may be. You can do it like that. Well, I chose not to. So yeah, I did want to put Goldmoon and Riverwind in, and there's a couple of advantages to that. One of those advantages is I didn't have to scale everything down so much at the beginning. I mean, like the first battle's really, really easy. We mentioned this last time. Changing the hobgoblins to goblins. Okay, no problem. Done. But when we get to the swamp over Zaxaroth, it's like it becomes a lot harder to scale these monsters because these are iconic. You don't want a level 2 dragon, right? I mean, that's dumb, right? You want a dragon that's a dragon, and you'll feel cheated if it's not. And so that gave them some muscle. I did not make them leveled as high as the original module. I made them level 3, but they gave the team some muscle and some support as they were trudging through, and it let the battles be a little bit bigger. Um, but the other, I mean, ultimately, um, ultimately, I like their story. Now, I mean, to be clear, it's like when I read the novels. Let's face it, Riverwind and Goldmoon are my two least favorite members of the companions, and they've remained so ever since. I If you want me to rank them further, Goldmoon I rank higher than Riverwind, um, but that doesn't mean I dislike them. And I actually had a lot of fun playing them. And so that's something I wanted to keep in, but it also let me add a bit of drama in. So without Goldmoon or Riverwind, going through the plains and like reaching the Keishu tribe is not as big of a punch. It's sad, but they're strangers. This isn't somebody's people, right? Um, uh, but it also gave a little punch once we actually get to the Plaza of Death. Um, Now this is a part where we have to do a lot. So like when we're fighting against the Boz Draconians, those battles we can scale back a little bit. So if you remember last time, I leveled up the party pretty early to level 2, and at the end of this chapter they reach level 3. Now they won't reach level 4 until we're doing milestone leveling. But I'm giving them some early levels to get them at least to level 3 as they're entering Zaxaroth. And once we get through Zaxaroth, then we're going to be leveling at a more original intention pace. But that's at least going to get us by the end of Zaxxaroth, will be level 4. And so that will kind of get us on in a reasonable range to move forward. Um, but the encounter in the Plaza of Death is a big one. And what happens if you don't know is this is where the black dragon comes out of the well in this plaza in front of, kind of the remains of Zaxxaroth and attacks the party. Now, what the dragon is supposed to do is circle around once. Then I think they come around the second round. He comes around and he casts a couple of sleep spells, and then he shoots out some magic missiles, and then he starts his breath attack. This would have demolished us. I mean, just this is total party wipe, easy, easy. Um, there's just no way around that. A single breath strike would have wiped out most of the party if the second round would have keeled off the other half. And so obviously this is not something I want to do. But I also don't want to nerf a dragon. Like I mentioned earlier, a dragon should be a dragon. All right? I'm willing to scale some stuff. I'm not willing to scale a dragon. So I wanted the dragon to be I wanted the dragon to be a dragon. But I also wanted to make this battle interesting and survivable. And so what I decided to do is, first of all, change the dragon's focus to something that's very reasonable. He's looking for the blue crystal staff. And make it so that circumstances are such that basically he loses sight of it, and that causes that causes him to really take his focus away from the main party, and look at that while they are trying to survive. And then I did make it about survival, not fighting. And so what I did instead was turned it into a skill challenge, but it wasn't a normal skill challenge. Normal skill challenge is that, you do a list of, a series of skills. You're not using the same skill twice. You're going through and, you're trying to get a certain number of successes before 3 failures. And so it was kind of like that. What I did instead was I made it into combat rounds, and the dragon went last. And the dragon at the end of a combat round would pick at random one of the players who failed that round's skill challenge and smack them. Now this is one area that I did nerf him a little bit, so that I made his attacks such I didn't actually lessen the actual blow, but I chose his attacks so that there wouldn't be one hit kills. So, like, no breath weapons over, breath attack over the entire party is what I'm saying. It's really what I'm getting at right there. No breath weapons over the entire party. But the idea is he's looking for the crystal staff. And so after a certain number of rounds, he will either succeed in finding it, as in, he's killed everyone and he wins, or he gets frustrated and leaves. And to increase the tension, and this is how we're going to answer the first question and the second question at the same time. What do we do about Goldmoon and Riverwind? So the first thing that the dragon actually does is just knock the senses out of Goldmoon. Like, smacks her across the entire plaza and into a wall. And so I'm like describing how like you hear the cracking of bones as she's just like hitting that wall like a rag doll. And she goes down to 0 hit points. Um, and Riverwind's focus turns to her. In the meantime, the crystal staff goes flying. The dragon does not see it, but the players roll to see if they see it. Um, and then they can act accordingly. And so, like, one of the questions is like, are we going to go help Goldmoon? Because if you help Goldmoon, I tell them, if you help Goldmoon, then that doesn't protect you from the dragon. Even if you succeed, he'll hit you, and so there's a risk reward there. Um, Goldmoon is rolled death saves like she normally would. And we were going to keep the results of it. And so there's a very, very real chance that Goldmoon would die. There's a real chance that she would survive. If she survived, and this is what happened. She did survive. She actually rolled a 20 on a death save. I my rolls for them were behind the DM screen. It was online, but you know what I mean. I didn't roll them on Roll20. I rolled them in person so that no one saw them, because I wanted that tension. I did not want the players to know whether she was alive or dead. I wanted them to always have that in the back of their mind. It's like, can I go help her? Should I go help her? Are we, how much danger are we in? Um, and so she rolled a 20, which that's an instant success on death saves. If you roll a 20, that counts as all of them. And so she survived. Now, the fact that she survived, that is going to affect the plot later in a way that is advantageous to the players. If they were not able to save her, or in this case, she rolled saves herself. But if they were not able to save her, then that would have just have kind of a disadvantage in the future for them. But in any case, she is by the end of this battle, she's mangled, and they're able to heal her of the pain and such, but the broken bones need to be splinted, and she is not going to be able to walk down that dungeon, which of course Riverwind is going to stay with her. Presto, we've gotten rid of our NPCs, which was kind of the point of that, and so it's going to be kind of fun. I'll discuss later like what I'm thinking as far as a reward for her survival is, but in essence, she hands over the blue crystal staff to the party at the end of chapter 2 here, and asks them to take it down into the dungeon themselves. Now, I was playing with this quite a bit. Like, if they succeed, like a really good persuade roll, would Riverwind go with them? I was toying with that idea. Now that I'm recording it, I'm probably going to take that off the table, because now the players will be like, wait, let's go talk to Riverwind. No, but if they could find some reason why Riverwind should come with them and Goldmoon would still be safe, that's going to be a difficult role, because remember, I mean, they're in the middle of this essentially an army camp. That this is the home base of the bad guys. It's like, where are you going to put her? But that if they could come up with a good plan for that, I probably would have allowed it. But it didn't. So, but this kind of gives options. It opens up things. The skills challenge actually ran over really, really well, and there was there's a lot of stuff to do in the Plaza of Death. If I were to do it over, I would probably I would probably add stuff to the scenery. Right now it's like a really big open space. If there's some stuff that they could climb underneath, and it's like, and give a DM a chance to like describe like not what they're seeing anymore, but what they're hearing, because if they've gotten behind something, if they've gotten underneath something, it's like, where is the dragon? This is what you hear. This is what you notice, and I think that would be really really cool. Um, the there was actually one round where like every roll was succeeded, and so the dragon uh, made a circle and didn't attack anyone, and that actually probably saved someone else from starting to do some death throws. But the other balance here is, if you start getting into like 5 or 6 rounds of this, then you start running out of skills to do. But if you're only at 2 or 3 rounds of it, then you haven't even really given Goldmoon a chance to die yet, much less anybody else. Because remember, I mean, it's like everybody should survive one hit. Um, if they so if they get hit twice, we're at least in round 2, probably round 3, and so that didn't even give them a chance to die either. And so we went we went with 4 rounds, which turned out to be a really nice length. It did allow several of the players to be battered around quite a bit, and it was really tense for them because, even in the second and third round, they were on the edge of going down to 0, and with some really unlucky rolls, if you fell to 0 in round 2, you could be dead in round 4. That would have to be some really unlucky rolls, but that was definitely possible. Um, and and so while death wasn't really um, that big of a threat here, it it was it did provide a nice sense of tension. And so if I were to do it again, I I might just increase that chance of death by actually making a one shot kill more likely, so that people can start falling in rounds 1 and 2, and you would have to make some choices, like okay, so do I run up and save those people, or do I just leave them to roll the dice and figure out if they were going to live or die. I think that might be one way I would change it. But at the end of the day, we are through the Plaza of Death. This is we are leveling up, and so we were going to go into Zaxxaroth at level 3, and the first big section of Zaxxaroth is probably not going to be that different than the book, although we're probably going to change the numbers and possibly the types of enemies that they encounter. Certainly, the end of Zaxxaroth, I want to be different. I want to be different than the book. And so we would definitely chat about that when the time comes. But all in all, this was fantastic because it got us through the first encounter with the dragon. I think it made it really memorable and cool, as their first encounter with the dragon, and it also it allowed us to dump our NPCs in a way that the players have a hand in, like that it's not something that's just scripted, that this is going to happen this way. Yes, the NPCs are going to leave, or at least one of them for sure, but you can choose to try to keep Riverwind. You can choose to try to save Goldmoon. You can let her to her own devices. You can just let both of them leave, and so the players have a choice. There is that this isn't like them being necessarily railroaded away, which I think was largely successful. So we're going back now into chapter 3 of Dragons of Despair. We are going down into Zack's Wrath, which I think is one of the coolest dungeons that I've seen in Dungeons and Dragons. I just reading through this, this module is like, it's so cool. And so I can't wait to kind of dig into some of the really neat set pieces that this dungeon has, and in the battles that will ensue upon them. And so we'll talk more about that later. I'm really having a blast doing the game and also these videos. Please like and subscribe below. Hit that little bell in the corner, and that way you'll get notified of when I'm uploading videos. I also do videos about retro gaming, and especially game music, and kind of pick some of that stuff apart, and also some of my own original music. And so please do subscribe and share this video, and we'll catch you next time.